our praise and worship time. Especially want to give a warm welcome to our visitors and welcome you to worship with us. We're going to start with a children's song. Do any of you children have a song you would like to sing? Perfect. Building up the temple, building up the temple, building up the temple of the Lord. Say, brother, won't you help me? Sister, won't you help me? Building up the temple of the Lord. Building up the temple, building up the temple, building up the temple of the Lord. Say, brother, won't you help me? Sister, won't you help me? Building up the temple of the Lord.
Good morning, and want to extend a Christian greetings to each one. It's good to be here this morning and to be worshiping with you. Welcome, special welcome to our visitors. It's good to have you here, and pray that you would feel free to worship with us this morning. We were not home last weekend, and we were in Iowa, as probably most of you know, but Abigail's grandmother passed away, and so the funeral was on Monday, and so we were out for the weekend. Abigail was able to be out most of the previous week, spending time helping her mom, as well as a 9-month pregnant sister and a recently postpartum sister. So she was much needed out there, and I was glad that she could go and spend time with family. And thank you to each one that helped hold my little clan together. I was a bit naive in my expectations on traveling 9 hours all by myself with my 3 oldest children, but we did survive. So thank you to each one that helped hold us together last week. You don't realize what your wife does for you until you suddenly don't have her. You know, but you don't really know until you're going through it. So anyways, it was good. And then another highlight for this week was Friday. And track and field is quickly becoming one of my favorite days of the year. And just a few highlights for me from Friday. I want to encourage all of you school kids. I want to encourage the teachers. A few things that happened that I observed. The first one was sportsmanship. There were 2 young men that were in a battle in the free throw competition, and that particular age group, there already had been a winner established, and so the fight for second place went to a shootout. And I'm not sure if it took 1 or 2 rounds to determine who won, but I was privy to. I was standing right there after it was finished, and they kind of went to their dads or whoever they split off to, and kind of simultaneously they turn around and they turn around towards each other, and the loser with just, I mean, it was amazing to see the way he just embraced and congratulated the winner, or the one that was competing against him and beat him. And I think it was just a beautiful picture to me. Obviously, our goal is to win. I think I heard the phrase Friday, "If you ain't first, you're last," right? We all want to win, but we're not always going to win. But how do I respond when someone beats me? Am I responding with grace? Anyways, so that was one. The second thing that I witnessed, and this was especially precious for me as a father, because it was for my son. They were competing in the long jump, and Waylon and I think the rest of the kindergartners, if they did long jump before, they hadn't done it very much. And in practice, they let the kindergartners go through and take a practice jump. And after Waylon's practice jump, one of the older boys stepped in and said, "Hey, Waylon, I noticed that when you went to jump, you went up to the rope and then you jumped with both feet. Well, you're going to be better off if you go jump off of 1 foot and then finish on 2 feet." And then when Waylon went and he did his first jump, he had a good jump, and I think it was 63 inches, and And he turned around, and that older boy was he was telling him, "Good job," and he said, "Good, you jumped off of one foot, just like I showed you," and it really helped him. And Waylon doesn't have any big brothers, and it was just kind of it was really neat to see how the older boys are helping the younger boys, and it was discipleship on display, is what I saw. It was someone older stepping up to someone younger and saying, "Here, let me help you out here." And that is the foundation that will build strong brotherhood here as a church. And that's happening right out there in competition. Waylon didn't win that competition, but he learned that he has older boys in school that he can look up to. And I pray that that's a foundation, or that's a culture that is set at Emmanuel Christian School, that Waylon will then be the big brother to the next kindergartner, or the next person, the next little boy that needs help. So that blessed me. I'm just going to say one more story, because there was another thing that stood out to me. This could take a minute, but so there was I was talking to Colton also, and there's Colton, and I was asking him if he had. It was at lunchtime, if he had any more competitions, and he said, "Well, yeah, but Axton is in all of them, and what's the point? You can't win if Axton's in there, because Axton runs like the wind and jumps like a deer, and he's 2 or 3 years older." But I just encouraged Colton. I said, that's good that you want to win, but there's realistic bars here, and right now, it's not very realistic to actually beat Axton, but you can control your effort. And I actually missed the high jump, but I believe that Colton was very competitive with Axton in the high jump. And so I just want to, that grit, that determination, that effort, if you keep doing that, I would call that a win for sure. So anyways, lots of lessons to be learned with track and field, and I just want to encourage you as a school in that. For this morning, I'm still going through the book of James. We're in chapter 5, and my last sermon in James here was a warning to the rich. It was the first 6 verses of chapter 5, and this morning, the title of my message this morning is Patience and Endurance, especially in the context of the Lord's second coming. And so we will read the text at this time, James chapter 5, verses 7 through 12, and I'll be reading from the New Living Translation. Dear brothers and sisters, be patient as you wait for the Lord's return. Consider the farmers who patiently wait for the rains in the fall and in the spring. They eagerly look for the valuable harvest to ripen. You too must be patient. Take courage, for the coming of the Lord is near. Don't grumble about each other, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. For look, the judge is standing at the door. For examples of patience and suffering, dear brothers and sisters, look at the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. We give great honor to those who endure under suffering. For instance, you know about Job, a man of great endurance. You can see how the Lord was kind to him at the end, for the Lord is full of tenderness and mercy. But most of all, my brothers and sisters, never take an oath by heaven or earth or anything else. Just say a simple yes or no, so that you will not sin and be condemned. Could I have a glass of water, please? Thank you. So we kind of taking a step back to the first part of the chapter of a warning to the rich. James is addressing the evil rich. I'll put that in quotes, and it's a warning to us about not being consumed by our riches. And thank you, Dustin. So that's in the first 6 verses. He's warning us about not letting money or our riches take over us or consuming us. And that could fall into, I believe I would have, the way I would have said it last time was that we all fall into the rich category. There's obviously tiers to that, and most of us think that the person above us is the rich one. We like to compare ourselves, or at least I have that tendency. And so he flips it in the next 6 verses here, and he says, he's speaking to the Christians. He's speaking to the Christians in the church here. He says, "Dear brothers and sisters," or in the King James Version it says, "Be patient, therefore, brethren." So he's addressing the brethren. And so he's talking to the Christians, and he's encouraging them to be patient and to endure to the end. James brings out 3 examples in this text here of people that are examples of being patient and enduring. The first example that he covers here is farmers. We have a few farmers here, and at least whether there's various levels here, and I'm going to throw the gardeners in with the farmers this morning because the application is similar. But the job of a farmer, and this is a time of year here in the spring where we're planting. In our region here, we're doing mostly corn, soybeans, wheat, hay. Those are kind of the main ones. And obviously some of these qualifiers will be slightly different based on your crop or whatever the case may be. But the getting ready to plant, you're checking your soil. The farmer will check the soil. The temperature needs to be within a certain range. The moisture needs to be within a certain range for the seeds to germinate. And then you sit back and wait, right? Just let it all just happen, right? False. So the planting happens, and then there's the growing season where there's weed control, there's all kinds of things that a farmer needs to continue to do to wait for the harvest. And a farmer, at least a farmer that is his occupation, develops, at least most of them, develop a high character because there are so many things that are out of a farmer's control. A farmer cannot control when the rain comes, how much comes, is the timing of it right for the plants to grow when they need to. Too much rain can be bad because the root systems don't go down and they don't develop strong, healthy plants. Not enough rain, and it chokes out the harvest. And obviously there's certainly an incentive for a strong harvest as a farmer. That's his livelihood. That's how he makes a living. And those of us that have gardens, we don't eat if the garden doesn't produce, right? Maybe not quite, but at least if you're producing a significant amount of food that you plan to store up via canning or otherwise, it's disappointing when a harvest doesn't come through. But a farmer develops patience. Patience is something that we, in our society today, we kind of miss on. Everything's instant. Everything's right now. We think we need it right away. Another thing that a farmer has is faith. It takes faith and a trust to rely on God to provide, so that the rain comes and that that the harvest is prosperous. But just as much as those, a farmer knows how to work and is working constantly. And so, like a farmer, we need to be patient, and James encourages us to be courageous for the coming of our Lord. So, like a farmer, a farmer goes through the seasons, and some seasons there's the planting, there's the harvest, there's the downtime in the winter, and some harvests are better than others. Some are complete losses because of storms or whatnot. And just like a farmer goes through those seasons, we also go through seasons in our lives. We go through difficult times. We go through very good times. Tommy is going through an exceptionally good time right now. Things have never been better for Tommy. Sorry, Phil's not here, so I had to put a little plug in there. So, others of us are going through a valley right now, and some of us others are just kind of, life is going along like normal, right? We go through different seasons, and when something goes wrong, what is our response? Are we quick to blame other people for the situation we're in? Are we quick to shift blame about our failures or our misfortunes? Do we blame other people? Do we blame God for what we're going through? To become judgmental is not what we need to be doing. James is warning us against that here. We need to abstain from casting judgment against our brother, and we need to remember that Christ the judge will come to evaluate each one of us. The end of verse 9 there, it says, the judge is standing at the door. We will all be judged on our final day, and blame shifting will not be acceptable when we stand in front of God and say, well, yes, I did that, but it's because of this. It's because of that person or this situation or this circumstance. We need to take responsibility for our situations and face them head on. So James uses, there's more examples here, and he says, in verse 10 here, look at the prophets. And there are so many prophets in the Old Testament that faced persecution, that faced some type of persecution. One example is that of Elijah. And he was persecuted by Ahab and Jezebel, and especially after I believe it was on Mount Sinai, that the prophets of Baal came, and they had the competition to see whose God would win. Elijah was throwing water on his on his altar, and fire came down and consumed it all, and in the process killed all the prophets of Baal. Of course, that angered Jezebel, and she said that he would be dead by the next day. So Elijah had to flee for his life, and so that was his. He was persecuted for standing up for truth and for confronting sin. And confronting sin is not easy for us to do. When we are faced with a relationship where somebody in our lives that we know is either living in sin, or there's an opportunity for us to speak truth into their lives, there's certainly right ways and wrong ways to go about that, depending on the situation. But I think we need to be bold to speak the truth when we are given the opportunity. And oftentimes speaking the truth in this day and age, most certainly, is we're confronting sin, and that's what Elijah did. So that's one example. Another example was Hanani. Hanani was persecuted by Asa because Hanani criticized him for trusting in Aram's help more than God's help. And Asa wouldn't stand for it. He threw Hanani into prison, and I believe he was even put in a muddy cistern as well as he was imprisoned. A third prophet here was Uriah. Uriah was persecuted by Jehoiakim because he confronted Jehoiakim about his evil ways. So again, confronting sin. And the result of Uriah doing that was he was killed. He was killed by the sword. So what can we learn from these prophets? Are we steadfast in our faith? If the wrong person came across our path, would there be enough evidence in our lives, or would we be bold enough that we would be persecuted? I believe that, I don't know if it should be a goal of ours as a Christian, but I believe that it should be inevitable at some point, if we are truly living for Christ, that there is some form of persecution that comes into our lives, whether it be just, social distancing, to use that as a term. If people just kind of like, well, I'm going to stay away from that guy because, well, he's a little different and he's a Christian. Or does it get as extreme as there's many Christians over in the Middle East and different countries that are being killed this very day? If we were taken before a court, would we be found guilty of being a follower of Christ? So let's continue to be witnesses for Christ as we wait on his return. The third example that he uses is Job. Job is probably the easiest example, I guess, that we often turn back to and look at when we think of endurance and faithfulness. Have any of you ever had a bad day? Many of us have our own versions of bad days. A few weeks back, we were framing a house, and we showed up on a Monday morning, and the trusses that we had set the previous Friday were laying down like an accordion. And for us, that was our version of a bad day. All in all, we lost, half a day of labor or whatever it was, and I think we were able to reuse every single truss. So, but we all have our own versions of a bad day, but they all pale in comparison to what Job experienced. Job lost everything. We know that story well. He lost his children, he lost his livestock, servants, the whole 9 yards. And it says that Job never sinned against God. He certainly asked questions. He certainly was, he asked the question, or he said that, I'm going to misquote it. He questioned the day of his birth. I forget what the exact words were, but and I think it's okay for us to ask God the difficult questions when we are going through that valley. I think it's okay to wrestle with that. But we need to come through the other side praising God for what He has done for us. I believe, so God rewarded Job for his faithfulness. God rewarded him for his faithfulness. And he had 7 more sons, 3 more daughters, and 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 team of oxen, 1,000 female donkeys. And he lived another 140 years, and he saw the next 4 generations. So he was rewarded for his faithfulness. I believe we also will be rewarded for our faithfulness. It may not come in the form of millions of dollars or whatever that may look like to us today. But if we're not blessed over and above here on earth, then we have the blessing of spending eternity with Christ. And that should be our driving force anyways. And so if you're in that valley, keep pushing, keep on, keep going. One final example that James does not cover here, but this, I'm going to go back and use Abigail's grandmother as an example for being patient and enduring to the end. They put her, 2 weeks ago, they put her in her, I'm not sure what they call it, but put her in final days, the status that the hospice put her in. And that was on a Friday or Saturday. Saturday, was that when they officially put her in final days? And so she was on morphine. She had had a stroke, and so she was on morphine, was not breathing well because of heart failure and fluid and things that were happening. But all week long, it was like every day it was just like, yeah, she maybe is getting a little worse, but she was just hanging in there, hanging in there, hanging in there. And we've all seen that before probably, or heard of it at least, to where someone can hang on for weeks at a time or even longer. And Grandma certainly was no exception. She was a fighter. And I believe that she was a fighter because that's who she was. In 1992, she lost her husband suddenly in a farming accident. And I believe Grandpa Elmer was 61, and they had farmland that they still had debt on, and it looked like an uphill battle of all uphill battles. But what did Grandma do? She put her shoulder to the wheel. The local historical society there in Kelowna had a program where they would have tourists come through, and they would sell these dinners to tourists. So these buses would come through, and they would come out to the farm, and they would, Grandma would cook up a home-style, home-cooked meal, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, pie, the whole 9 yards. And she would serve up to 40 to 50 people at a time. And it was all, what do you call it? Home style? What do you call it? They pass the food. What's that? Family style. That's what I was looking for. And so she would serve all these people, and she would serve 2 to 3 meals a week. And so she worked, and she paid the farm off in, I think a number I heard was 15 years, but she paid it off herself. And just the grit and determination that she showed to keep on going, to keep on plugging. And she has, well, just this last week, she has received her eternal reward. Just a little bit about her legacy. There were 38 great-grandchildren, 72 great-grandchildren. All but 2 of the grandchildren were there, and that was because one was in Asia as a missionary, and the other one, if you remember, there was a prayer request last fall for little Johan that was born. He was in his mom's abdomen. That was the other grandchild that didn't make it because of still having a little baby that needed to be close to the hospital and whatnot. And so the legacy that Grandma leaves is immense. She's the one that she lived right beside Abigail's family. She taught Abigail how to prune her raspberries, and she taught Abigail how to can, and truly a legendary grandmother. She didn't want the spotlight to be on her. She didn't want people's pity or sympathy. She was more focused on the people that she could serve than she was focused on herself. Grandma was the picture of hardworking. She was a witness to thousands of people that came through her kitchen, and she remained faithful. And I think whatever our valleys are today, and we all have valleys from time to time, keep working, keep witnessing, and stay faithful. Let's bow our heads for prayer. Father in heaven, thank you for today. Thank you for loving us, for caring about us. Lord, I just pray a special blessing on each one here as we leave this place, as we go out and as we serve you. Lord, I just pray that we would keep our shoulder to the wheel, that we would stay faithful, and that we would seek that reward that you have promised to us that are faithful to you. We pray